We have one crisis hitting the world after another. Right now, we're having a wave of financial problems hitting the United States and by de facto the world economy. We also have more issues happening over in the Middle East, some shifting loyalties. Some of the United States allies are starting to ally themselves with people who are against the United States. So we're going to be talking about what Saudi Arabia is doing. We're going to be talking about what's going on with Iran. We're going to be talking about what Israel just did to Syria, just launched airstrikes against their airports. We're going to be talking about what's happening with interest rates here in the United States for car borrowers, as well as what's going on with treasury bills. We just have a big major market move just in the past hour of shooting this. We're seeing this happen Thursday afternoon in the markets. It's a big deal. No one's buying U.S. Treasury bills anymore. It's the worst auction we've had on nearly $20 billion. So we're going to be talking about that as well. All right, folks, let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar, and as an accountant, we get right into it, okay? We don't fluff around. We will get you the information and get you out of here quickly. We do want to thank our sponsor, Whole Cows. If you have food stockpiled already, which you should do, and you want to add some premium freeze-dried beef onto that, so you have some food to bite into, not just beef crumbles, but actual beef strips. You might want to check out Whole Cows. They have a commitment to quality as well as nice big chunks of beef as opposed to little crumbles of beef. There'll be a link at the end of the video to get some more information. All right, so government inflation report came out. U.S. government inflation report came out for September, and it showed inflation is rising. Is that a surprise to anybody? Anybody? Anyone here? Just raise your hand down in the comments if that's a surprise to you. Probably not, because you go to the store, you buy stuff, you keep seeing prices rising up. Every time you try to borrow money, you see your interest rates going up, and indeed, that's what we are seeing. Subprime auto loans, so if you have relatively bad credit, you're looking at 17 to 22% to buy a car. That's crazy. People who have maybe a little bit poorer of credit, people who are struggling financially, people in the middle class, lower middle class, upper lower class, who are working, need to have a car to get to work. But if their car goes bad on them, I've had some car issues this past year, and it's rough. What if you don't have the cash to go out and buy a clunker, and you need to actually go to a dealership? There's no cheap cars at dealerships, and you're going to have to pay a massive premium. You're going to have to pay credit card interest rates in order to get a car loan. That is crazy, folks. It's brutal. And why is that happening? We're seeing interest rates continuing up. As interest rates go up, bond prices go down, right? That's as they go up, basically anyone who has them at the lower interest rates, it becomes worthless to them, so they have to start discounting the value of those bonds. We just saw this U.S. Treasury auction for 30-year bonds. $20 billion go on sale this afternoon, and they got priced at 4.8% interest. Now, you may be like, okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's just say this. It's up 0.5% since last month. And just so you kind of understand what we're talking about here, this is the interest rate that was hanging around zero for years. We have, and these are 30-year loans, we have so many banks sitting there with stockpiles of 30-year notes that are paying them, 1% or less. That the value of those bonds has almost been cut, down to like 25% of its original value. That's kind of how that math works. Why would you want a 1% yielding bond when you could have a almost 5% yielding bond? Which one would you buy? And if you're going to buy the 1%, you're going to discount that down to the point where you're getting roughly 4 or 5% interest, right? So the bond prices are dropping. These banks are sitting with assets that have lost so much value. And we're not talking about tens of billions of dollars. We're talking about trillions of dollars of value. That's how serious this is. And these banks are trying to hide it any way they can. And these bank crises are coming. The other week, I warned you about Metro Bank over in the UK. I said it was going to implode over the next week. And I take my predictions seriously. Did it implode? Well, it kind of did. But it got a major bailout. So basically a billionaire from, I think, Colombia or something like that, came in and bought the whole bank and used his own money to bail this bank out. So it got a major bailout, which didn't need it unless it was going kablooey. So it got prevented from going kablooey, but we're just waiting for the next bank to go kablooey. Will it be your bank? Will it be my bank? I don't know. I do a lot of banking at PNC, as much as I hate everything that they stand for. But they're on the list of banks that are unstable. There's a lot of banks on the list that are unstable. So what bank's going to go bad next? I was just talking to my parents about the same thing, about spreading your money over different banks and getting into a credit union, and they just got into a credit union. And my dad was just telling me about how friendly they were compared to his other bank. The other bank was always giving him excuses and incompetence and everything like that. He went to the credit union, and he said it was like night and day difference. And this is bank with people that don't hate you as best you can, right? And I need to be taking that a little more to heart myself. But all right, so what else is going on out there? So we got subprime auto loans are just going through the roof. We had this 30-year auction of Treasury bills, and it was devastating. It was the worst since 2021. Anyone remember what happened in 2021? Yep. Anyway, so the foreign minister of Iran was trying to get to Syria today. And late last night, the Israelis came in and bombed all the Syrian airports. So now they attacked the runways, not the buildings. They didn't attack people, but they did put giant potholes in all of the runways, so therefore no one could land planes there. One of the planes from Iran, passenger planes, actually had to turn back because there's nowhere, they weren't going to be able to land anywhere. And then the foreign minister of Iran was not on that plane apparently, but on a different plane, and he ended up actually going to Baghdad today. And the question is whether he's going to try to overland it into Syria, or what they're going to do with that, or if he's even going to go to Syria anymore. Israel, of course, responding to missile attacks from 2 days ago from Syria, as well as mortars being fired from Syria. Apparently, this is not just Syrian militia or Hezbollah within Syria. Accusations are that this was actually the Syrian army that fired at Israelis. And right now, the Israelis really aren't taking any crap from anybody. They're not taking anything. They're going to dish it right back, and more so. So Damascus Airport and Aleppo airports are out of commission as of now because of the runways. Damaged crews are out there checking it out and everything like that. And no word yet on what the Iranian foreign minister is going to do. Speaking of Iran and the foreign minister, so Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince MBS, or Mohammed bin Salman, not a fish, but a prince, he got off a 45-minute phone call with President Raisi of Iran. And you say, for those of you who track the international sphere, you're like, wait a minute. Saudi Arabia, who hates Iran, got off a phone call with Iran? Yes, and indeed, not only that, but pledging Saudi Arabia's support for the Palestinians. Yep, so that's kind of awkward. Saudi Arabia has been kind of moving in the line of normalizing relations with Israel. There was a treaty on the table ready to be signed for them to normalize relations with Israel, and suddenly they're picking up the phone and calling Iran and saying, let's side against the Israelis. Not the biggest, brightest day of U.S. foreign policy victories out there, is that? That's pretty tragic. Seeing Saudi Arabia pivot from Israel and NATO and the United States over to the BRICS countries, over to Iran, is definitely not a good thing. Now, some people are out there speculating that Saudi Arabia is just trying not to get attacked when Israel and the United States attack Iran. They're afraid that Iran's going to take out all of its wrath on Saudi Arabia as a kind of a puppet state for the United States. And so are they just trying to get out of the line of fire right now? Possibly. But it's definitely not a good pivot. United States has used air bases within Saudi Arabia before, and Saudi Arabia has been very, very willing to allow the United States use Saudi Arabian territory in order to attack Iran. It's going to make things a lot more complicated, and but that's kind of what we're looking at. Is we got people in Washington D.C. talking about attacking Iran, which is a really big deal, and I mean that is a amazing. Iraq was easy compared to Iran. The tactical ground, the layout of the country of Iran, the Iraqis tried to invade Iran and it didn't go well. Even when they used chemical weapons supplied to them by the United States. I mean, we gave them precursors and they manufactured it themselves, of which I'm sure none of our security forces had any idea what they were about to do. What? United States backed forces using weapons of mass destruction on civilians and soldiers? Nah, that couldn't be. That couldn't be. Yeah. Everyone needs to open up some history books and read what the United States has done over the years. It will open your eyes to what we're capable of and what our secretive agencies are capable of, because we have done some pretty atrocious things. You know, it's at points where the United States Congress members and the United States generals and people in the high levels need to wake up some days and look in the mirror and say, are we the bad guys? Are we the bad guys? So people are talking about attacking Iran. Friends, short of nuclear weapons, that is, or the conflict that's happening in Eastern Europe. We're talking about that type of scale of warfare. That is what would be required. We would have to deploy hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the ground with heavy tanks, heavy artillery, and even then it would be a slog. The mountains and the roads that go through those mountains are ridiculous. And the idea that the United States would be able to go into Iran with ground forces is just ill-conceived. And they've buried their facilities so far underground that strikes from conventional aircraft would just not do the job. They wouldn't do the job. Even nuclear strikes may not do the job. And so when people start throwing the call of attacking Iran out there, that is insane. We will suffer probably worse than what Bear Country is suffering over in Eastern Europe right now with their bogged down campaign. Friends, I hope we do not go into Iran. The entire Middle East is one big Gordian knot of issues and everything like that. And while we support Israel going out and doing what they're doing, I think Rand Paul said it best. He said, we absolutely support Israel doing what it needs to do, but the United States needs to stay out of this. We can give support, we can give materials and all that kind of stuff to our allies. But this is a fight that Israel needs to fight, and the United States needs to stay out of a shooting war unless the United States is attacked. And that's That's been my position across the board for everything. You know, when I start talking about what's happening in Israel, hear me say that I support Israel's right to defend themselves and to do what they need to do. And I think that they are kind of on the right side of things. Not to say everything that they do is right. And I do criticize them on occasion for things. And what they're doing to Gaza right now is hard to understand, hard to wrap our brains around. And then at the same time, we have to realize it's hard for us to imagine being in their shoes, though, too, right? They are surrounded by enemies on all sides. But the United States prematurely jumping into a war that we're not prepared for or not capable of actually. The days of the United States sticking our nose into everybody's business and getting away scot-free is probably over. If we attack Iran, we would need to expect attacks here at home. Sabotage attacks, terroristic attacks, suicide bombers, this type of thing. We are getting to a place where in the world we can be touched by other countries all the way around the globe. We have grown too accustomed to being able to bomb somebody over there and it not to affect us here at home. And the world has changed. We are now a multipolar world. There are different countries with global capabilities. And for us to not realize that that is the fact is extremely naive and foolish. So, is there going to be an Iran war? I don't know. Is that going to be avoidable? I don't know. I sure hope we can avoid it because it will get really ugly. Really, really ugly. I think that the United States should have a very clear policy. Don't attack us or you will regret it. But I think there's a difference between dropping bombs versus deploying ground troops. And I think that we need to keep that clear in our minds, that we need to have a proportionate response. And us sending hundreds of thousands of ground troops to a foreign country to see horrendous losses is not exactly a good idea. Of course, we'll have to see what happens in the coming days. We have the Day of Rage coming up tomorrow. Whether that will mean attacks on the United States soil in New York City or elsewhere, we will see. And of course, before the United States goes to war somewhere, you're going to see something happen that's going to make everybody 100% agree with attacking whoever we're going to attack. And attacks on U.S. soil could galvanize the American public very quickly. And whether those are actual legitimate attacks or whether they are attacks that are planned by three-letter agencies and such, I don't know. But if they're really committed to bringing us into this thing, many other times that we've been drawn into war have been because the powers that be inside of our government decided it so, and then they set up the stage so that we would be drawn in. So be aware of that. And I'm also going to say this. If that happens, you either need to get on board or you need to shut up. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that that's good. I'm saying this. If you stand in the way when 95% of Americans are charging ahead, you will get run over. So I strongly urge you, if things happen inside the United States or in development of things where everyone suddenly gets like in furious, foaming at the mouth rage, it's best for you and me for us not to say stuff out loud, because when a nation goes to war, you just need to get behind it. I was just reviewing Gandhi's life. He was against World War II, and yet he found himself needing to be quiet, and they imprisoned him. But because he did not fully speak out against it loudly, they gave him relatively good conditions in prison. So the world is the way the world is, and you need to make your decisions to live in the world as best as you can, with as much morality as you can. But you know what? Everybody in the world is not owed you to tell them everything that you know at every time. Sometimes we need to keep stuff to ourselves. Let me know in the comments down below. You may not like that, but do you kind of see the wisdom in what I'm saying? Sometimes you just need to know that it's a lost battle, and therefore it's not really worth fighting. Other times it's a lost battle and it's worth fighting, and you need to make those choices for yourself, for your family, and act accordingly. Some things are just out of our control, and we need to kind of go along with them. All right, that was a little heavy. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to get some more information for whole cows, there's a link right here. You can check out what they have. Make sure you use the code Poplar15 to get a 15% discount if you like what you see over there. If you want to check out another video from the channel, there's one right up here. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.